what's going on, guys? SteelTwins back at you with another full first-round mock draft.
Absolutely, man. So let's just get right into it. With the 20th overall pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Mack Wilson, inside linebacker out of Alabama. Now, depending on how you look at it, depending on who you talk to, depending on your perspective on Mack Wilson, this could be considered a reach or this can be considered a perfect selection. In my opinion, this would be a perfect selection. Now, I said it in the past. We think that Mack Wilson could potentially fall into the second round or even fall out of the first round or fall into the incredibly late first round or whatever. But honestly, with everything with Devin White and Devin Bush and them increasing their stock and everything, and the fact that the Steelers don't normally trade up. I know in our last mock we said that the Steelers will trade up, but, which is possible, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's happened before, but
the thing with the Steelers is that they are not aggressive.
Yeah. And the thing about this pick is that Mack Wilson, yes, he is from Alabama, and that we don't normally draft guys from Alabama regularly. But the thing is that this time a player from Alabama is more likely to,
fall in our laps, really.
Right. So Mack Wilson at the 20th pick. Again, this is depending on who's on the board or depending on what you need, because obviously inside linebacker is our biggest need. So if Devin White and Devin Bush are off the board, Mack Wilson, in my opinion, is clearly the best inside linebacker there. And although this may seem a little, again, depending on how you look at Mack Wilson, this may be a desperate pick similar to what we did with Artie Burns when William Jackson III was taken, and we just selected Artie Burns out of desperation for a corner. But I don't think that this would be a desperation pick at all, because Mack Wilson is a hell of a fucking linebacker. He's not as fast as Devin Bush or Devin White, clearly, but
he's still got some speed to him. I mean, it's not slow.
Right. And, Darius Leonard ran, a 4.7 last year, and he was arguably defensive rookie of the year. Was he defensive?
He was defensive rookie of the year.
Yes. So, I mean, speed, it's great to have speed, but, speed really isn't everything. If there's one thing that you should know about in this league is that speed isn't everything, because look at some of the fastest 40-yard dash guys. Of course, Dree Archer's a big one. John Ross, outside of maybe Chris Johnson. The speed guys haven't really turned out too spectacular. So speed really isn't everything. But Mack Wilson does have a little bit of speed to him. I would not underestimate it completely, but he does have great coverage ability as well, which is something we all know that the Steelers lack on at the inside linebacker position. He is phenomenal in the run support. So he really has all the tools to be what we need inside linebacker. He may not be as fast as we all want him to be, but he can still be an impressive linebacker and still help us in that rushing game and, of course, in coverage.
Exactly.
So I think this guy would be the perfect selection, number 20, and honestly, could be the most realistic selection.
Yeah, because it's a Steelers kind of thing to do depending on how you look at Mack Wilson, it could very well be a reach or it could be the perfect pick, but it's the Steelers kind of thing to do to just get the next best player at their respective position.
Right. And of course, they've just been scouting and looking at the position of inside linebacker. So they're clearly looking to replace inside linebacker. Replace Shazier at inside linebacker.
To fill the void inside linebacker, and I think Mack Wilson could very well be that kind of player do so.
Mack Wilson is just the most realistic selection, because I don't see Devin Bush or Devin White dropping at all.
That is if we don't trade up.
Right, so Mack Wilson, number 20.
Now with the 52nd overall pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Juan Thornhill, safety from Virginia.
Yeah, man. Honestly, in my personal opinion, Juan Thornhill is the biggest draft sleeper of this entire class, of this entire draft season.
And I have to agree. He is not being talked about a lot when he should.
Yeah, I mean, you got guys like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, of course, and Jonathan Abram, and Nazir Adderley, and Deontay Thompson, and, of course, Taylor Rapp, and possibly, Darnell Savage as well, The safety, it's not as stacked as most years, but the safety position is actually not too bad this year, especially when it comes to the earlier selections. But Juan Thornhill is a guy that is really getting slept on, and someone who's not really getting talked about a lot, and I think that's where we can snag him in the second round. And honestly, I just feel like safety is a need at this point, because we got Emmons last year, sure. Depending on how he does in these upcoming years, it will determine how he plays out. Sean Davis, He
has not lived up to all the hype that he had since his rookie year.
Right, and some of that hype definitely came from us because I was high on him coming into the season. I thought that him switching to his comfortable position at free safety would have helped him a lot. He didn't do a damn thing. He dropped 4 fucking picks. All he does is sit back there and wait for a touchdown saving tackle, and most times he fucking misses it. So, and with his new agent that he has, Drew Hazen, what's his name? Rosenhaus, yes. Of course, AB's agent and everything. So, he's going to ask for a fucking hefty price that he's not worth. So, Sean Davis, whether we trade him or whether we get rid of him, I honestly think he's not going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler after next season. And I feel like that's where we have to address the safety position. And why not do it in this upcoming class, especially with the signings that we have with Steven Nelson and Dante Moncrief. It gives us a lot more flexibility and a lot more room to go
to go after other needs on our team.
And fix a position like safety because Sean Davis is more likely going to be out of here. And I'm not that high on Davis anymore.
No.
And Juan Thornhill, man, he is a fucking, like we say, he's a sleeper. He's probably the biggest draft sleeper, definitely in day 2.
He's got great ball hawking ability and playmaking ability.
Yeah.
2 things that our secondary desperately needs.
Right, plus he's a phenomenal tackler as well. He could work on it a little bit, but he, according to the stats, I'm not really a stat guy or anything, but according to the stats, he is not that bad at tackling as well. But he has incredible speed to him as well, nice height. He's incredibly strong. He has an impressive football IQ. Like you said, he's a phenomenal ball hawk, which is obviously something that we haven't had at the safety position since Polamalu, of course. So that's what he would apply there in the backfield. So, Juan Thornhill in the second round, if he is there, it would help us address the safety position completely. But he is a phenomenal playmaker who has impressive football IQ at his age.
Without a doubt.
So I think Thornhill in the second round, depending on who's on the board again, but to address the safety position, I think that's our guy.
Absolutely.
Seriously. Now with the 66th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Julian Love, cornerback out of Notre Dame. Of course, this will apply depth at corner, but this is someone we've been high on for months now. With the signing of Steven Nelson, of course, I like we said, we expressed it before. We have full confidence in him being the starter opposite of Joe Hayden. But, depending on what happens with Hayden or even Nelson or whoever, whether there's an injury or if they just don't work out or whether there's a contract issue or whatever, we can develop Julian Love to be a potential starter, but he can definitely be a great backup, apply some depth at the cornerback position, be a nice special team player as well. And again, like we said, can be someone that we can develop into being bouncing into the potential starting role opposite of Hayden or Nelson or whatever. Anything can happen at the safe or at the cornerback position. But I think Julian Love would apply great depth, but someone we can definitely develop into being a nice playmaker. And not only that, man, he's a decent ball hawk as well. He's pretty physical. He's got nice size and speed to him. Nice IQ. So this guy would be a great depth guy, but like I said, could be someone that we could develop.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Julian Love was one of the shining stars of that Notre Dame defense.
Yes, he is. So, yeah.
Now, with the 83rd overall pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Ximines, edge rusher out of Old Dominion.
Yes, man. We finally got our edge rusher because Bud Dupree fucking sucks. I know we may be sleeping on it, but I'm sorry. He has not impressed me. He has all the tools. He has speed. He has height. He has athleticism. I don't understand a guy this athletic playing so fucking down and so limited.
And being so inconsistent.
I don't fucking get it. This guy was a combine monster. He had all the tools outside of maybe bulking up a little bit in his strength ability, but he has all the tools, and he ain't doing shit with it. I don't know if he's just fucking lazy. I don't know if he just fucking sucks. I don't fucking know. But I feel like we definitely need to address the opposite outside linebacker position, opposite T.J. Watt, of course. And again, with the signings that we have with Moncrief and Nelson and even Mark Barron, of course, it adds a little bit more flexibility to go take care of needs like edge rusher and like corner and like safety and shit, But Ximines is someone we're incredibly high on. He's fast, he's strong, he can definitely get to the quarterback. He's a monster off the edge. I feel like he would be best in a 3-4 defense as an outside linebacker. And he's just a hell of a pass rusher. Would be perfect opposite of T.J. Watt and everything. So I feel like Ximines in the third. Now, depending if he lasts to the late third round specifically, which I'm a little in and off on that. I do see it happening, but at the same time I don't, because I feel like teams are really starting to open their eyes about him more. But I feel like Ximines would be a hell of a third-round pick and a hell of a guy that can potentially sit for a year, maybe battle Ola Daney for the starting gig, or maybe even maybe he battles with Dupree for a starting gig. Maybe we trade Dupree at the end of the cuts.
Yeah, because I actually heard a rumor. Now, this is just a rumor, and take it with a grain of salt. I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I heard a rumor that some teams have actually called the Steelers about possibly trading for Dupree.
Oh.
No names of teams have. Yeah, the Ben thing. No teams that have been named have came out or anything like that. It's a rumor right now. It's all just speculation and everything. It's not factual as of right now. It's just a rumor. So
right, but that is incredibly interesting.
Yeah, if that's the case, we can get a guy like Ximines in the third, or even if we want to get him with the 66th pick and get a corner with this selection, 83rd. Nonetheless, Ximines could be a great replacement.
Yeah,
he reminds me a whole lot like Lamar Woodley.
Yeah, definitely. Only more active and not as lazy as Woodley, but
yeah, more speed, more strength.
Yeah, and much more consistent, completely. So Ximines, obviously, T.J. Watt, sign me up.
Absolutely,
sign me up, man. Now, with the 122nd pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Justice Hill, running back out of Oklahoma State. This guy would, you guys already know, complete our rushing game and our rushing back depth and everything. He'd be the number 2, number 3 guy because we can do many things with Samuels. We can motion him out as a receiver, as you guys already know. He can come in and be the backup to Connor. We can split reps with him and everything. Similar to what we were going to do with Le'Veon Bell, with Bell and Connor and Samuels and everything. But, of course, Bell didn't show up and everything. But, yes, I will say I love Connor to death. I really do. But he does have injury and fumbling issues. It's something that he could definitely work on. Last season, he wasn't really expected to be the full starter and everything, of course, but him coming into a year he wasn't even expected to do anything, and doing what he did was incredibly impressive. So him coming into a year where he's actually expected to start and everything, and a year or 2 years specifically under his belt, I feel like he'd do much better. But, splitting reps with other running backs could definitely help him out a little bit more as well. Keep him more fresh, keep him more healthy, keep him more, concentrated and everything, I feel like that's where Justice Hill can definitely come in and be a guy to complete that. And he's just a hell of an elusive and fast and strong running back as well. And, of course, he has that connection with Mason Rudolph. We already know they were teammates at Oklahoma State. And, of course, James Washington, of course. So we would have that trio back at Pittsburgh, or in Pittsburgh. So, I mean, it writes itself. It's perfect, honestly. With Mason Rudolph and James Washington and Justice Hill. So when Mason Rudolph eventually steps in, and if everything works out, I feel like he's just set. He's just set. So, he has guys that would, that he has chemistry with. So he wouldn't really be too rusty around the edges or anything. That most rookies or franchise quarterbacks, stepping into big shoes would usually have. So pairing him up with guys that he already has chemistry with, like James Washington and Justice Hill, would help him out a lot more. Plus, he already has guys like Juju and Connor and everything to help him out, and, of course, a very elite offensive line. So I feel like that's another reason why Justice Hill would be a hell of a pick as well. So,
yeah, absolutely.
But, of course, the main reason would get back to old school Steelers rushing the football type shit and just taking some pressure off of Ben and Connor, of course.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Now, with the 141st pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select David Sills, wide receiver from West Virginia.
Yes, West Virginia. Okay, I'll shut up.
Take me home.
Okay, if you guys are big video gamers, you guys know what the fuck we're talking about there. But
it's an actual song,
Is it?
I think it was by Johnny Cash or something.
I thought it was actual theme song. All right, nonetheless, we're getting off topic. But yeah, David Sills, man. Big ass fucking sleeper, and I honestly feel like he's gonna drop to the 5th just because he didn't run a very fast 40. But honestly, that doesn't bother me too much because his height is impressive. He's 6'3", and he is a fucking touchdown and red zone magnet. If you look at this man's stats, it is fucking insane. He can go up and get them 50-50 balls. He has incredible hands. I honestly feel like he's this year's Cooper Kupp. To be real with you.
I definitely have to agree.
I think he's this year, now not as fast or anything, but he is this year's Cooper Kupp. He is a fucking monster. His speed doesn't really concern me a lot because what he does with the ball in his hands, his rack yards is nice as well, and he's just a fucking immediate threat in the red zone. And Ben's been begging for a tall receiver for years now. So applying that to this offense would just make Ben a little bit more comfortable, a little more trustworthy. So I feel like David Sills would not only apply great depth at wide receiver, could move up to a potential number 2 spot opposite of Juju, but definitely a nice depth guy and someone that we can definitely utilize in this offense, especially in the red zone.
Yeah, and we know how we were in the red zone last year. One of the best. I think top 3, actually.
Yeah, and the Steelers love to run those 4 or 5 wide receiver sets. So imagine him in the slot or outside in the red zone, man. Shit.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Shit.
Ben would be ecstatic.
Seriously.
This whole offense would be fucking monstrous with adding David Sills.
Yes, it would. Seriously. It's incredible,
He's a huge sleeper. He
Massive
really is.
sleeper, seriously. And like I said, I think he's going to fall to the 5th just because he didn't run a fast 40. But again, that doesn't concern me. His stats and his threading ability in the red zone it really makes up for it.
Yeah, it's really remarkable.
It is. It's crazy. Now, with the 175th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Foster Moreau, tight end out of LSU. So we get our number 2 tight end. We apply depth at tight end, and Foster Moreau, who surprisingly has some speed to him for an incredible blocking tight end. And that's what this pick would be, not only depth, not only a solid number 2 at tight end, but he would be a phenomenal blocker, especially in the rushing game and in the passing game and everything. So
yeah,
that's the main reason for this pick, to apply depth. But he is a phenomenal blocker.
Yeah, and at the same time, he's really not that bad as a pass catcher either. I mean, and he can definitely improve that.
Yeah,
especially with the speed we got. If we do get him, Steelers may want to try to see how he is in the receiving game.
Oh, definitely. We could definitely develop him at that. And honestly, even when he was a receiver, he has some strong ass hands. So if he wants to work on that craft a little bit, man, we got a hell of a tight end.
Yeah, we do.
But at the start, he would be a hell of a depth tight end that could help in the rushing game and everything, because he is arguably the best blocking tight end in this upcoming class.
Yeah.
So
now with the 192nd overall pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Jalen Hurd, wide receiver from Baylor.
Yeah, another wide receiver, man. We double dip on wide receiver. I just have this feeling we're going to double dip on wide receiver. Maybe we go receiver early. Maybe we go receiver late. In this mock, we have them going 2 wide receivers in the mid rounds, the 5th and 6th rounds. Jalen Hurd, man. I know he is kind of falling a little bit because he used to be a running back. He was a running back for Tennessee and everything, and he was a hell of a fucking running back. Elusive, fast, tall. He's what, 6'4", 6'5"? For a running back, that's fucking insane. So but he moved he switched positions. He changed positions from running back to wide receiver, and he moved from Tennessee to Baylor. And because of that, he was ineligible to play for a full year. And, last year as a receiver, he didn't do too bad. He didn't really do too effective either. But honestly, I feel like that's where we can draft him. And, the Steelers love to develop wide receivers. We all know our resume for developing wide receivers. I know we have a few busts here and there, but 9 times out of 10, man, the way we develop wide receivers is tremendous, especially in recent history. So I feel like that's where we can help Jalen Hurd definitely, because he does have a lot to work on at receiver. His route running, definitely. He could work on his hands, definitely. He has the speed. He has the height and everything. But, with how we develop receivers, we can definitely help Jalen Hurd out in that factor. But at the same time, because he used to play running back, if we wanted to, we could have him do something similar to what Switzer does. Switcher's a receiver, but he comes in and helps us in the rushing game. So we could
even the Darius Hurd-Bay role, because we would put him at receiver, but sometimes we let him run the ball.
Yeah, especially on those end arounds.
Yeah,
so
if you think about it, Hurd could actually take Hurd-Bay spot and possibly even as a main special teamer.
Indeed, seriously. But I really love Jalen Hurd. I feel like it's someone that we could definitely develop a receiver and be a decent wide receiver, but at the same time can be. We could definitely, because he's a monster in the yak yardage, because he used to be a running back, so he used to be pretty fucking elusive. So I feel like that's where we can utilize him nicely there. But definitely someone that we can definitely develop into being a nice solid tight end, nice depth guy. But someone that we could definitely motion around a little bit as a runner, as a receiver, as a return man, as a like you said, as a special teamer. We can do many things with Hurd.
Yeah.
But I feel like we could apply depth with the selection, but someone we could definitely develop.
Absolutely.
So yeah. Now with the 207th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Daniel Wise, defensive tackle out of Kansas. Man, this will apply depth at the defensive tackle position. I know we signed Daniel McCullers, which I don't know why, but, we could apply depth at defensive tackle, or if we want, we could try to motion him to defensive end, be the backup defensive end, opposite of Tyson Alualu, of course. So that's all this pick is, but I really wouldn't sleep on Daniel Wise. He's actually a pretty decent defensive tackle. He'd be a hell of a fucking backup in this league, to be honest with you, and someone that we could definitely develop into be a nice rotational guy for Hargrave down the road.
Yeah, seriously.
So that's pretty much all this pick would be.
Yeah. Now, with the 219th overall pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, Pittsburgh Steelers select Jackson Barton, offensive tackle from Utah.
Yeah, this would because we obviously traded Marcus Gilbert. Now I have faith in Fueler and Core Ford to battle out and be a nice solid right tackle and everything. But, maybe we want to apply more depth. Maybe we want to give him a little bit more competition. Who knows? Maybe we want to give some competition to Gerald Hawkins, who he drafted in the 4th round out of LSU a few years back. And he hasn't really done too well. He's been bearing injuries his entire NFL career. So maybe we want to bring him in and battle with Hawkins or whatever, or maybe depending on how we develop. Because, granted, we don't have Monchek anymore, which sucks. But his replacement, Son Serrett, honestly isn't too bad of an offensive line coach. So we could develop Jackson Barton to be a pretty decent backup right tackle and everything. And, excuse me, like I said, he could battle with Hawkins for a roster spot maybe. Maybe he can battle for a potential right tackle gig eventually down the road. So depending on what happens. But this guy would be a depth pick at offensive tackle, but someone we could develop and be a nice practice squad member until he develops nicely.
Yeah.
So that's all it would be. So, but anyway, guys, that is our full 7-round mock draft. Now, let us know you guys' thoughts in the comments below. We'll be back with another one pretty shortly. So look forward to that. Otherwise, let us know you guys' thoughts, comments below, and we'll see you guys in the next one, man.
Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you later. Peace!